to a new episode of Books and Beyond from the Winter Park Library, recorded live in the recording studio at the library in beautiful Winter Park, Florida. In Books and Beyond, we have conversations with writers, musicians, artists, presenters, and other contributors. Most of our guests have appeared live at the Winter Park Library or will be presenting soon. We hope you'll subscribe to the Books and Beyond podcast and that you'll stay up to date with library goings-on at winterparklibrary.org/events. That's winterparklibrary.org/events. I'm Michael Werner, and I'll be your host for our interviews. Enjoy the show. Hello out there, and welcome to another episode of the Books and Beyond podcast from the Winter Park Library in beautiful Winter Park, Florida. I'm your host, Michael Werner, and I'm delighted you've joined us. In today's episode, we'll be talking about romance. The 5th Annual Winter Park Book Festival is coming up March 23rd, 2024, and the theme of this year's episode.
Festival.
It's not an episode. The theme of this year's festival is romancing the books. And just, by the way, a little side note, during that event, there's another event here in the library called the Children's Book Author Fair, and that will be happening on the second floor of the library. The Romancing the Books is on the first floor. So if you want to come by and bring your kids with you and send them upstairs and you join your authors in the Romancing the Books, that would be great. The Romancing the Books Festival will be held again at the library from 10 to 2 on March 23rd, 2024. It's a free event, but you should sign up for it ahead of time to reserve a space, and you can go to winterparklibrary.org/events. That's winterparklibrary.org/events to sign up for the event. For this event, we're partnering with Lorelei Buzzetta, and Lorelei's with the Lorelei's Lair and the Writer's Block Bookstore. We're excited today to be speaking with Lorelei. She's here with us today in the studio. So welcome, Lorelei. Are you ready to talk romance?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, you're welcome. It's great that you joined us. Would you like to give us a little background about yourself? Tell us who you are and how you got involved with romance, and, well, maybe on a personal level or not, but how you got involved with romance books, and give us your personal story, and then we'll talk about the event.
Well, thank you so much for having me. This is a topic that I'm really passionate about, and I'd like to share my experience with others to see if more or less they have the same experience or not. But I moved to Orlando, Florida in 2001, originally from New York, lived in Venezuela, and finally found a home here in Orlando. Then I started teaching as a teacher assistant in special education. And of course, around 2007, when the recession and budget cuts came, that's when I had to make a decision to stay home and volunteer and take care of the kids. And where do you take your kids? In difficult times, you go to the library. And that is when I tell people my life changed. I started as working in special education, and then I started just volunteering. Then my daughter wanted to read a book called Twilight. Actually, it was Breaking Dawn because it was the 4th book out. And I said...
Is that the last book in the series, the Twilight
series?
It's
the last book of the series. And being in special education or in the teaching system, I only read nonfiction. That's all I read. Actually, I was not like an avid romance reader at the time. And I didn't even know what I was in for when I picked up that book. And I just turned to the first page because I said, what is this book about? And she said, oh, it's about vampires and werewolves. Everybody's reading it. And I said, let me give it a try. So I opened the first page and I started reading. And in 7 days, I finished all 4 books. And I was not a reader. I did not expect to go down that route.
Yeah.
And then I wanted more. So that was the series that got me hooked. Later, I went to the library and I said, I want more like this book. Mm-hmm. So that's when, like Goldilocks and the 3 Bears, you go trying books and this and that until you find the just right book. And through that experience. So first, when I had the Twilight, let me just go, I became a super fan. And when you're a super fan, all you want to do is look and talk and connect with the author. And,
And who wrote the Twilight books?
Stephanie
Lorelei.
Meyer.
Okay.
And so back then, social media wasn't so popular. And so I would just go on websites and trying to look for Stephanie Meyer just to let her know how much I loved her books. But no response. I went into into groups and blogs and commented, but I wasn't getting that what I was looking for, like that feedback, that something to share my excitement. And so then reading until I found a book by an author, and in her book, this is 3 years later. This is in 2010. She says in her book, if you enjoyed my stories, let me know, write to me. And I did. And I said, oh my gosh, you are just like, the gifted writer. I love your books. I've read them all. I don't know if you'll reply or not, but, if you do, please let me know who else writes like you. What do you recommend? And but still, your writing is a gift. And I sent it out. The next day, I open my inbox, and there is a reply.
Wow.
And then I told my friend, oh my gosh, the author wrote back. She wrote back. And then my friend says, oh, that's probably her publicist because,
They're too big for this sort of thing.
Yes, and I said, no, that's the author because that's her voice. Because when you read a book by an author, you pick up, and I had read 4 of her books. And after reading, I said, that's her. And I said, oh my gosh. And then I wrote back again. And, I didn't want to let go. And so I said to her, oh my gosh, where can I read? Where can I find out more about your books and this and that? And she said, follow me on Facebook. So I tell readers when I host events now, Narnia?
Yes,
and
yes.
Lucy, when she goes through the wardrobe and discovers Narnia, that's the day I tell readers that's the day that Kristen Higgins took my hand, led me through Facebook, and I discovered Romancelandia. And it wasn't a world that I was expecting. Normally, when you think of any product, any book that you read, and you go to that product or author, you think you're only going to hear about that product or author. But she showed me, I read all her books, but I wanted more. But she said, oh, have you tried this author? Why don't you give this book a try? And I said, oh my gosh, okay. I read it. I loved it. And then I'd come back to her and I said, can I write to the author? She said, of course, they'd love to hear from you. And so I did. So what does this next author do? The same thing. And this was like an effect. And it showed me that the romance community, the romance authors, are such a supportive, kind, and generous community.
Of each other.
Of each other.
It's not competitive, yeah.
No, it's like a sisterhood. It's wonderful. And ever since then, I've never left. And so in 2007, I began reading. In 2010, that's when I decided to create a name. Instead of my personal name on Facebook, I put Lorelei's Lair. Mm-hmm. And then I got to meet and engage with other readers. And at home or around in my neighborhood, nobody else read. So I found a community where I felt that I belonged and they understood me and we spoke the same language.
And they're all over the country or all over the world.
All over the world.
Yeah.
So I made friendships all the way from New Zealand, Australia, France, London, California, Tennessee, everywhere, New York, everywhere. And I love that. So then after creating Lorelei's Lair, the web, the Facebook page, I created a blog because now I started reviewing. I didn't know as a reader, I could get advanced copies.
And that's at LoreleisLitLair.com?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
yeah.
LoreleisLitLair.com. But back then, I read also women's fiction, and so I didn't want to create a name that was exclusively romance at the time, because I didn't know maybe if I'd dive into other genres. So until recently, in 2000, during another
Crisis.
crisis and
Yeah.
challenging time, which
Yeah.
was the pandemic, I discovered that my community was hurting. Everyone was hurting. And I felt, even I, for a year, couldn't read. It was like white noise. And I wasn't ready. I think, like many. Then when I did start to read, I was ready to go on Facebook in my community and share the exciting news about, this book that I read. But then I realized, when I went on my feed, out of 10 posts, 7 were of offering condolences. So sorry for your loss. People who lost their pet, who are caring for elders, or they're cooped up and they don't know how to deal with, life, and because of the pandemic. And then the only 3, let's say, on average, were posts of happy birthday, happy anniversary, and happy release day.
So people weren't talking about books or
No,
romance
well,
books.
at least myself, I didn't feel comfortable going. Like if you're going, like imagine if you're a celebrity and you're going to the Oscars or a gala, and you walk down the road there and you see a bunch of homeless, hungry people.
Sure.
How can have a heart to
Right.
go to your community and share that excitement? But then I said, what can I do to help? What can I contribute? Because there's no money that can pay to, offer to fix anything,
Right.
kindness, support. But I really, even myself, I wanted to find my community again and offer them a safe place where we could talk about our books and our passion, which is about reading, about the authors, like an escape. Many people watch, Netflix or streaming services. I prefer to spend 7 or 4 hours, depending on how long a book is, inside a story. But what I love most now, and that's what came to me, was I could, after doing the blog, I would entertain readers with author spotlights and giveaways. So that was on the blog.
From your blog.
From my blog.
Yeah.
So like for 5 years, I've been engaging in meeting authors and forming friendships. And so they would be so generous and kind, as mentioned. I would do an author spotlight, like do a Q&A with them, and then offer their books as a giveaway. So I would ask authors questions like about, do you have any pets? What's on your bucket list? Any hobbies or skills aside from reading and writing? And then talk about how they started, writing romance, why romance, and other things about what their stories are about, or what can readers expect in their books. And so once I did the blog, that was in 2012 up to 2015, then I shared my excitement with my local library, and in explaining to them, oh my gosh, I get to feature authors and do giveaways, and they said, oh, how about if we host one of those events here? And I said,
Can you imagine that this would have happened, by the way?
No.
From not being a reader or a fiction reader.
I was not a reader, like I would read nonfiction.
Sure.
For, teaching students, helping learn and things like that. So never did I think that I would go into this.
And here you are. Yeah.
Yeah. So after meeting many authors, I decided to create a model, because I would go to book fairs, and then authors are normally at their tables, and many are introverts. Readers are also introverts. I'm an extrovert. So, and the part of wanting to help and teach was trying to get how to make that connection between readers and writers. And so that's how I came up with the Q&As on the blog for the author spotlights. And then the giveaways, because, we all love books.
And Lorelei, before I forget here, could you spell the name of your website, your name, and then the name of the website too, just in case people?
Yes.
I know people are going to want to.
Well, yes. So I'm going to say it's Lorelei'sLitLair.com.
Okay.
But also, it's LoreleiS.
Lorelei S.
LITLAIR. But this past year, you can still land on my page by visiting letstalkromancebooks.com.
I like that one.
Yes.
Letstalkromancebooks.com is you.
Yes.
That diverts over to the Lorelei's Little Lair.
Yes.
Okay.
So I made it in a way because now after meeting so many authors and really hosting events locally, that's when I decided to make it easier because I know my name can be, misspelled and hard for people to find. Yeah. So letstalkromancebooks.com is easy to remember.
Yeah, very good.
Yeah. So again, started reading, created a blog. Then I started hosting events at libraries. I would tell the library, I've met this author. I'm doing author spotlights and giveaways. And I started at my local library, a romance, wine, and chocolate. So that's when I started. I brought in about 13 romance authors and readers, and that's where I use the same model as my blog, the author spotlight and giveaway.
But you're doing it live now.
But doing it live.
Yeah.
So I feel this is the best way for readers to really get to know a little bit more about the author and also learn something exciting or interesting about the author that they may not know. Because, it's oftentimes hard to remember names of titles of books.
Sure.
But you won't forget a face or a name. But if you share something that will connect, for example, for romancing the books, we have the keynote speaker, which is Brenda Novak. And one of the things about Brenda Novak is that she has a charity for diabetes. She supports a charity.
Okay. And
so, you can think of, if you've never read her books or don't know what, it's about, but maybe, about a charity, the Diabetes Foundation, you can connect. Oh, she's one.
And she'll be the keynote speaker at the Romancing the Books,
yes,
which is on March 23rd.
March 23rd, yes. And so then we have other authors, they all have different backgrounds, and it's amazing. I've met authors who are anthropologists, professors, journalists, educators, teachers, professors, all from all walks of life, and they write romance. So.
Wow. And at this year's festival, what are some of the subgenres of speakers that we're going to have, or authors that you're going to have?
Well, I'm delighted to have many that write small town romance, some with pirate romance, paranormal romance, diverse romance, Latinx romance, romantic suspense. You'll find a little bit of everything in there. And authors are very, generous and kind. And so I'm hoping readers will get to, experience this festival in a different way, not like your traditional, book romance or book festival or author panel.
So how does it work? I come to the festival, and what do I see, or what's the procedure?
So when you come, actually, authors will have their tables, but we will be on stage.
Okay.
So
you're here in the theater in the library.
Yes,
the library,
in the theater. Okay. The authors will be there, and I will introduce each one. And the fun thing about is we're going to have audience engagement, because I play a game called Fun Facts. On the blog, I have a club, Let's Talk Romance Books, that I invite one author a week. I do something similar, which is called Two Truths and a Lie. And then readers have to guess which is, the lie. And so it's a fun game. So how do I make it into an event? I ask each author to share a fun fact, and the audience gets to guess which fact belongs to which author after I do a brief introduction. So that's the interesting part.
That's fun.
So then after that, authors will go to the tables, and this way, readers will have an idea of learning a little bit more about what the author writes, something that they may have said that will pique their interest, and have something to talk about or to comment, So, and then, readers will have time to visit the tables and engage with the authors, and then we'll come back later to have the keynote speaker, and then we'll have giveaways from all the authors, and readers will we'll have a Q&A.
Will they have books here to purchase as well? The authors?
Yes.
Okay.
Writer's Block will have their collection
That's
of
the local
books.
bookstore here.
Yes,
yeah,
the local
Winter Break.
bookstore. They're amazing. And so they'll have all their books. And I believe also readers can bring books to get them signed by their favorite authors, or if any of them they know, which I know many of my club members will be here, and they're excited to meet the authors that they've met at the club, who will be present.
Well, it sounds like it's going to be a pretty big event, so I would encourage
yes.
everybody to sign up as soon as possible.
Yes.
Because spaces are limited. Once it's filled up, it's filled up.
Yes, yes. And it's wonderful that it's free to the general public. I believe already the keynote speaker seats are sold out, but you never know. There may be no shows, but definitely get a ticket, because that's how I believe we're going to do the giveaways.
Okay.
So, yeah, we'll have about 9, 10. I may throw in, anybody also who signs up to my newsletter will get a free book. And if they're already a member, they'll get a free book. I have a collection of books from Mass Market, so if they stop by my table, they will get one.
What does that mean, from Mass Market?
Mass Market are the smaller books.
Okay.
The paperbacks,
okay,
like the
kind
smaller
you see at the
paperbacks.
grocery store or something.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
And there's something for everyone. When I started reading romance, I thought, it was, kind of like the movie, that you always think it's either the 50 Shades or, but really romance can be from, you have Amish romance, Hallmark romance, small town romance, billionaire romance, paranormal,
I had no idea.
romantasy, romantic suspense. There's cowboys and werewolves. There's everything that you can imagine.
And do you personally read across all of those, or you have favorites yourself?
I have historical romance.
Okay.
Right now, I'm more into contemporary and historical romance.
Okay.
And on occasion, I'll have romantic suspense. It varies. I'm a mood reader, so it just depends what I'm in the mood for. There's also romances like Navy SEAL, military. I mean, I had once a person told me, because anywhere I go, I start giving recommendations of books.
Yeah.
And she said, okay, out of all those books, tell me which one is the best author, and I'll read that one.
Yeah.
And the deer in the headlights stare?
Yeah.
And I said to
How
her,
can you possibly do that?
how can I possibly narrow it down to one? And then it came to me. And I said, the best author, the best romance is the one that makes you happy. And so I like to think of romance like a box of chocolates. Let's take Forrest Gump.
Yeah.
You never know what you're going to get. Just like chocolate, it comes in different, flavors. Some are a little bit more addictive, or a little bit sweeter. Some are spicy. Some are better for you than others. So it's about, going on the journey and trying to find it. And that's the beauty.
Yeah. Lorelei, I have to ask you, and I don't want to put you on the spot, but you are on the spot because you're our guest here at the library's recording studio. You must have your own book in progress, stuffed in your top drawer. Are you writing a book? You writing a romance novel?
Can you believe it? No.
You're not. You're not.
No.
You
People have asked me that.
Yeah.
It says, "Oh, are you going to be? Maybe you should write a book."
Yeah.
I said no. I will let that task to the professionals.
Yeah.
I like being on the reader side.
Okay.
Something that I also do, and is that I help authors as well to kind of, as I mentioned, sometimes authors are a little bit introverts. They about that reader engagement, how to when they come to events, how to get the best how do you say reader experience, author experience. And so I help with that. I've had readers though that have attended my events and met the authors who have become now writers.
Yeah. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure every one of the authors that's at the event has a story somewhat similar to yours. I mean,
Yes.
they have their own story. But,
yes.
yeah.
Actually, one of our authors, Becky Lee, she
Uh-huh.
was a reader, met the authors, and became a writer now.
This is terribly exciting. Let me just, before we finish up here, and I'll ask you in a moment if you have any final words you want to contribute.
Yes.
Just remind everybody the event is on March 23rd. It's from 10 to 2. And I think I may have not misspoke, but I may have misled our listeners. You can come to the library. The library doesn't limit how many people can come in. So you can come in and see the event, or you can talk to the authors and so forth. What's limited is the seats in the theater to listen to the keynote speaker.
Yes.
So if you want to do that, you need to sign up online at winterparklibrary.org/events, winterparklibrary.org/events, and that's where you get those. You think those are already sold out, though?
Yes, I believe the keynote speaker seats are sold out.
Wow, okay.
But,
Wonderful.
they sell out. And I encourage people to sign up to my newsletter only because not only am I started as an avid reader influencer, but I'm the romance book ambassador.
Yeah.
And whenever there's an event, I always love letting my community and local readers know about it. So that's exciting.
And again, that's the easiest way to remember that is it's Let's Read Romance Books.
Let's Talk Romance
Let's
Books.
Talk romancebooks.com. Okay, and that'll take you to your site.
Yes.
Lorelei, it's been wonderful having you here today.
Oh.
You want to tell us anything else in general before we wrap up here?
Just come, how do you say, with an open mind to get to discover and experience this event in a whole new way.
It's going to be an exciting day. I'm going to come. I don't know anything about romance books, but I'm learning, and I want to see what happens.
Yes.
Well, again, thank you very much for being here, and see you at the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Okay, bye. Thanks for joining us for another episode of Books and Beyond from the Winter Park Library. This podcast would not be possible without the generous help and support from the library staff, and especially from Jeremy Zorn. Jeremy's official title is Public Services Librarian, but he does many things here at the library, including producing this podcast. We can't do this without you, Jeremy. Our theme music is from the song Don't Go by Bovine Joe and the Buffalo Herd. That's Herd spelled H-E-A-R-D. We hope you'll let your friends and others know about this podcast and that you'll come by the library for one of our offerings, which you can find at winterparklibrary.org/events. That's winterparklibrary.org/events. If you have questions or suggestions for the podcast or just want to talk about Books and Beyond, please send an email to podcast@winterparklibrary.org. That's an email to podcast@winterparklibrary.org. Remember that the Winter Park Library promotes the free and open exchange of ideas and does not attempt to control or take responsibility for any opinions that may be expressed in this podcast. Opinions expressed in this podcast do not constitute or imply an endorsement or a reflection of the library's policies or beliefs. This is Michael Werner, wishing you well until our next episode of Books and Beyond.